Welcome to the American Institute of Stress's official podcast, Finding Contentment. The goal of this podcast is to highlight new information about stress and stress management techniques. While we understand that stress is a very personalized issue and different for everyone, we hope to help you find your own way to contentment.
All right, hey, greetings everyone. This is your host and executive director for the American Institute of Stress. It's Will Heckman. Thank you for joining us once again today to Finding Contentment, the official podcast of the American Institute of Stress at stress.org. And look, I know many of you are listening and you may not know what this podcast is about. It is about stress and stress-related issues. And we know that a lot of you who are listening are experiencing so much negative stress in your life that you really don't know what to do about it. And the first thing I wanted to tell you is that there is something you should do. And that's you should evaluate your stress. And at the American Institute of Stress has just released a new way to do just that. It's called the Roche Stress Profiler. And really just in 15 minutes, the Roche Stress Profiler will show you how well you are coping in 10 key areas of your life, including anger and worry and fear, financial stress, time pressures. You know, in addition, the RSP will also show you how well you are doing with stress symptoms, stress outlets, social support, overall resilience. And when you're armed with better understanding of your strengths and your weaknesses, you can begin to make immediate changes in the weak areas, and you can rely more on your strengths and start living a healthier lifestyle. And just go to stress.org and you'll find out more about it. And while you're there, don't forget, please subscribe to our free magazines. We have Contentment and Combat Stress, both free. All you got to do, like I said, is go there and you can subscribe to it. And since we're talking about subscribing, I'm going to do what every YouTuber does. And I'm going to ask you right now to hit the like button, hit the bell button, the subscribe button somewhere over there. Do me a favor, hit that too. And I appreciate it. Okay, so today we're talking about a topic we've touched on before. That's stress and its connection to our diet and what we eat. And I know some of you have said, well, we've discussed that, but there's so much to talk about, so much to learn about. According to the APA in the United States, most adults are overweight. Some are even obese. And that increases their risk of type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, the list goes on. Obesity is a major contributor to preventive death in this country and other countries, and can raise morbidity risk associated with chronic diseases such as hypertension, stroke, respiratory problems, and of course, various cancers. It was also shown to be a major contributor to death during the recent COVID pandemic. Something to think about. Research that was conducted shows connections between stress and food. People like you and I tend to seek very high caloric, high fat foods during periods of stress. Though in fact, when people are stressed, their bodies tend to store more fat than when they are relaxed. It's a bad combination. And while many factors contribute to our nation's weight challenges, the Stress in America survey, again by the APA, suggests that stress definitely influences our eating habits. Many adults report engaging in unhealthy eating habits as a result of stress. I'm one of them. And they say that their behaviors can lead to undesirable consequences. You start to feel sluggish, you feel lazy, you feel bad about yourself, bad about your body, and guess what? It increases your stress. They even said 38% of adults say they have overeaten or eaten unhealthy foods in the past month because of stress. Half of those said they did it in the last week or more. It's a big subject, our diet. You know what the old saying is, you are what you eat. They're right. So today we're going to be talking to someone who is a true leader in the field of diet and has impacted literally millions of lives. Joining me today is Udo Erasmus. Dr. Erasmus is a pioneer of the health and wellness industry. He is a creator of flax oil and the healthy fats movement. He's also the co-founder of Udo's Choice supplement brand. It's a global leader, cutting edge health products. They've sold tens of millions of bottles of healthy oils, probiotics, of some which I take, and other digestive enzymes. Udo is an accomplished author, including his book, Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, and that has sold over 250,000 copies worldwide. He has an extensive education in biochemistry and biology, even a master's degree in counseling and psychology from Adler University, and he's impacted over 5 million lives. He's a passionate speaker and has given over 5,000 live presentations, over thousands and thousands. He'll have to tell me how many media interviews, including this one. This adds another one. And of course, thousands of staff trainings. He's also very well traveled and well known across the globe. He's traveled to 40 countries with his message on how to achieve perfect health. And you can find out more about Udo and his work. All you got to do is go to udoerasmus.com and read up about him, as I did. So please join me in welcoming our guest, Udo Erasmus. Udo, thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for that fabulous introduction. I almost don't recognize myself.
I left out half.
No, I can't believe
did.
I've been so many places.
40 countries. God, I don't know if I've been to 40 states. I got to get moving.
Yeah, well, I lived out of a suitcase for 15 years, 6 to 9 months on the road.
Sounds stressful.
15 years.
Just saying.
No, you know what? It would have been stressful, except I loved what I was doing.
Yeah.
And all of it, and there's no stress in doing what you love to do.
The biggest stress reliever is loving what you do. You're absolutely right.
That's a huge one.
Udo, I mentioned a little about your journey. We're talking a little bit about your journey, how it came to be co-founder of Udo's Choice line.
Yeah.
But I read on your website about how you got started in the health field. And I thought it to be a very compelling story.
Yes.
And I felt a very real connection to it. And I'll tell you why after. Tell us a little bit about it. Tell our listeners about it.
Okay. I got married and we had 3 kids and my marriage broke up. This is like, I'm starting the story in the middle, but this is what got me into health. So my marriage broke up. I was really upset. I wanted to kill something. And I had a pesticide sprayer's license that I had gotten on a gardening job I had. And I had the chance to get a job spraying pesticides full-time every day, which is a perfect job for someone who wants to kill something, because pesticides were only invented to kill living things. And did it very carelessly. And after 3 years of spraying pesticides very carelessly, I got poisoned by the pesticides I sprayed.
Oh my.
I think they call that what you sow, you reap.
Yeah.
Or if you come from India, they call it karma. What you put out comes back to you, right?
Yep.
And I knew that pesticides cause cancer. Like about 60% of the pesticides that we spray cause cancer. Now I've been poisoned by pesticides. I've got cancer to look forward to. And the first thing that happened is my palms started to sweat. That's a sign of stress.
Yes, it is.
Anxiety, in fact, right? And I said, okay, now what do? I went to a doctor, said, what do you have for pesticide poisoning? And she said, nothing. Oh. And that's when the penny really dropped for me. Oh my God, my health is my responsibility. And if I don't take care of it, or if I don't take responsibility for it, then maybe nobody's taking responsibility for it, because the doctor gets paid even if I don't get well. And even he has nothing to offer me, right?
Right.
And so because I had background in biochemistry and genetics and biology, and I'd actually taken a year of medicine, but quit because it was only about diseases and I wanted to know what health is. So I took that background and started going into the journals to learn about nutrition and health, nutrition and disease, and looking at everything, minerals and vitamins and amino acids and fatty acids and everything, toxic stuff, everything. So, and I got stuck on fats because it was complicated. On the one hand, they said there's these fats that are essential for your health, which means you have to have them. And if you don't get enough of them long enough, you die. So these are really important. And if you bring them back while you're going down, but before you die, then all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed. Because life knows what to do to build a body that works. provided we take responsibility here at our mouth and what we put in there. And once we swallow it, it's not in our control anymore. Once we swallow it, life does what life does with it. So if it's bad stuff, then there are going to be bad outcomes eventually. And if it's good stuff, there are going to be good outcomes eventually. It's kind of like saying, look, gasoline's become really expensive, and I have a car that's a really nice car, and it gets 35 miles a gallon. And you know what? Today, I'm not going to put gas in the car. I'm going to go down to the beach and just put some sand in my tank. Yeah. So what happens to the car? Well, the car was not made to run on sand. So it's going to cause problems for the car. Just like when we put in our body stuff that doesn't belong in the body, that is not in line with nature and our nature, it's going to cause problems in our body. Yeah. And so if you do everything right, you're going to live a life where you have energy and you have a certain amount of calmness and you're able to respond to what comes at you. And if the more wrong stuff you put in it, the less able you're going to be to do that.
But let me ask you, I mean, a lot of what we consume, no matter what it is really what we've been kind of trained to do.
Of course.
We've been trained to do that, not only by, watching TV, and God, it looks really good in the commercial. I got to tell you, that McDonald's commercial, and I'm not saying McDonald's is bad, please. The lawyers at McDonald's, don't sue me. They make that food look really, really good. And, I was thinking about our conversation today and thinking about what is it about our diet that is so hard for us to adjust? And it really is. I at one point I cut out 85% of all the sugar in my diet, and I immediately felt better. But I have a theory, and I wanted to talk to you about it. So I have this theory as to why we eat bad food, right? And especially when we're stressed, because inevitably, when you're stressed out, you most of the time reach for something unhealthy. And I blame our moms and dads, because some of the moms and dads out there, and I'm one of them, when we are children and we're crying and we're upset and we're stressed out, the first thing they do is feed us. And usually it's something sugary or sweet or high fat, or something we don't really need. And I've done it too. I've done it with, my daughter's picks her own food now. She's an adult. But when she was young, a cupcake was quicker than anything else to calm her down. And so my theory is a lot of what we eat, a lot of what we consume, good and bad, has to do with our history with food. What do you think?
So
people just eat.
So let's blame our parents. They blame their parents, and they blame their parents, and they blame their parents. Now we're back 200,000 years ago. Right. Where did it start, right? So there are two things, I think. One is we live in convenience, and a convenience is more important to us than challenge. And everything that's convenient will break you down, because living in line with nature and your nature, which is how your food should be, so mostly fresh, whole, raw, organic, they'd have to be local, they'd have to be in season. Well, who eats like that? Oh no, we want them packaged, and we want to be able to carry them with us, and we don't want to have to refrigerate them. And by the way, we didn't have refrigerators all that long ago, right?
That's right?
So you had to be fresh, whole, raw, organic. For humans, mostly plant-based, because plants don't fight or run, so they're easy to hunt down and kill. Whereas the animals could fight back or they would run away. So our diet in nature was mostly fresh, whole, raw, organic, plant-based. But if you look at how you eat now and compare that to fresh, whole, raw, organic, plant-based, we have done a lot of processing and changing to the food. And most of our physical problems, including the ones that affect our mood and our health and our energy and our stress levels, come from the changes we've made in our foods in order to get convenience
Right.
away from fresh, whole, raw, organic, plant-based.
I'll tell you what, that was really driven
so
home.
whenever I'm stressed, I am closer to bad food than I am to good food. That's the issue, right? And when I'm stressed, stress, whether it's mental or physical, the mind does not distinguish between the two. The moment I get stressed, I'm getting cranked up for fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I get cranked up for fight or flight, that's going to take energy, and I'm going to need energy. So I crank up on energy. Guess what it is? Usually starches, sugars, starches, anything. The problem is most of our stress is mental, and we don't do the fight or fleeing, only in our mind. So we took the fuel that we needed for physical activity, and we don't get the physical activity. So the fuel gets turned into fat, and then we end up wearing our stress.
Well, that's very right on the point, because I was going to ask you, like, why? Okay, so where somebody is stressed out, and I hear this all the time. Somebody who is very stressed out usually picks unhealthy foods. And then you really just cleared it up. You hit the nail right on the head. You said simply because that they need their, it's I guess it's in our DNA that we need that energy that we're going to get from.
We need the fuel for physical activity, right, of fight and flight. Yeah.
Well, I never thought about that before. And that's really a good point. You don't have time, I guess, when you're being chased by a bear or a saber-toothed tiger to cook up a steak or, go digging in the garden.
And you're probably not going to ask, is this whole grain or white flour?
Right. Exactly. And that's such a good point. That does really clear up a little bit about why we pick so unhealthy foods. A lot of times, like you said, stress is mental, but our bodies, they don't know. Our body craves what it craves. It doesn't know.
Correct.
It does. It's very real to your stress reaction.
Right. So that means, because most of our stress is mental. So if I'm sitting in my house, there are no bears around here. There are no saber-toothed tiger around anywhere around here. There's the occasional raccoon and skunk goes by, but these are not like serious problems. So if I'm stressed here, I can make the assumption that my stress is mentally produced. Sometimes I produce it myself. Like anxiety. Anxiety is based on what if.
Right.
I used to be afraid of flying. What if we crash? I kept on saying it to myself. What if we crash? What if we crash? And people told me, well, your chance of crashing in the airplane are way lower than your chance of crashing in a car.
True.
And my answer to them would be, well, it doesn't feel like that to me, right? So I would get on the plane and I would be terrified. And I cried on the plane. Because I was creating the what if we crash? Because I could have just easily said, what if we all land safely? Because that's what usually happens. The what if was something I created in my own mind because of my bad attitude.
Right. Well,
right?
It's perception. We perceive things in different ways.
Yeah. And I created it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that. So I had to fly pretty much every day doing what I was doing. And here I was afraid of flying. Right.
Right.
And finally I got to, I said this thing from Shakespeare: cowards die many times before their death. The valiant never taste of death but once. Of all the wonders that I yet have heard, it seems most strange to me that men should fear, knowing death a necessary end will come when it will come. Right? So I would say that over and over to myself and say, what a coward I am. Yeah. And I started, when I owned that I was being a coward, then I got into a place where I started changing, recognizing I was doing it. It took me a while to figure out that I was actually doing it to myself, because it doesn't seem like it when it sort of hits you.
Right.
And then it changed slowly. I changed and I got into a deep, quiet practice, that takes me into a place within my own being, beyond words, beyond possibilities, beyond imagination, beyond words. And their stress is not possible outside the realm of words. Mental stress is not possible outside the realm of words. But we can talk about that another time. What I do now, there are things to do. One is, how close can you get to fresh, whole, raw, organic, local, and mostly plant-based? Because when you eat dead animals, when they're being killed, they are adrenalized like crazy. So you're eating the adrenaline. Well, adrenaline does in your body what it did in theirs. And so you actually get hyped up. So it makes you more prone to stress, and plant-based eating tends to make people calmer, right? Then if we don't have the essential fatty acids, and especially omega-3. Omega-3 does two things regarding stress. One is it gives you more energy, so you have more energy and you feel more confident. And when it comes to doing physical things, you get them done. So you get a certain confidence that comes from that. And number two, they make you calmer at the same time. And we saw it in racehorses. Literally, they had more energy, but they were calmer and they raced better. So omega-3s do that exceptionally well, but they're super sensitive to damage. So they have to be made with health in mind, which requires a lot of care. And that's how that industry of making oils with health in mind, that's how that came about.
And what's a good source of omega-3s? I know they're found in, I believe, salmon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, used to be fish. Used to be fish. Fish is now the dirtiest meat in the planet. And the fish we eat are high on the food chain, and the pesticides, the PCBs, dioxins, oil-soluble industrial toxins end up concentrating up the food chain in the ocean. So I don't recommend them. I have never recommended them because they're very, very sensitive to damage as well as toxicity. Yeah. So what we did is we took flaxseed, which is the plant source of omega-3, and 99% of the population doesn't get enough of them for optimum health. So we said, let's load up on the basic material. It's more stable, and let the body make the fish oils itself. And contrary to what you hear in the marketplace, the body is actually very good at, if you get enough starting material, to make the derivatives that you get from fish oil. So I don't recommend fish oil. If you're going to take a supplement, krill oil, you can get algae-made EPA, DHA as well. But what I do is very simply flaxseed for omega-3s, balance it with omega-6s that are also made with health in mind from sunflower and sesame. And then you get a ratio. The best ratio we've been working with is twice as much omega-3 as omega-6. And you find you have more energy. You even lose weight because omega-3s turn on fat burning in the body.
Well, they got my attention.
And they do it actively. But you have to lower your carb intake, right? Because most overweight comes from eating carbs and not burning them and then having them turn into fat in your body.
And it's such a bad merry-go-round to get on, because we fuel ourselves on all these carbs, and all these things, and all these sugary things, and we gain weight, and we stress out because we're gaining weight.
So we eat some more.
Of the thing and we can't get off that merry-go-round. It's very similar to problems with insomnia, where you can't sleep because you're worried about the fact that you can't sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there was a very good explanation of, so let's say we change our diets a little bit.
Yeah.
We take this supplement. We increase the good stuff. We decrease at least some of the bad stuff, guys. You can, just some of it.
But just
50% of all the crap that you guys, and myself included, eat, if we just put that aside, how much healthier you would feel?
But what you need to do, instead of saying don't eat this and don't eat this and don't eat this and don't eat this, I have a whole list here. What are you not supposed to eat? Oh, you're not supposed to eat anything fried, because fried oils fry health, and fried foods fry your health. And when your health gets fried, by the way, you get stress. You get stress on a molecular level. And then through your vagus nerve, you get the stress on a mental level as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't eat fried food. You don't eat sugar. You don't eat processed foods. You avoid all the toxic foods. So you want to go organic. You don't want pesticide in your food. You want to keep your environment clean. So there's a whole, okay. So now I've got you just focused on, what did I focus you on? Fried foods,
Right.
sugar. What I'm trying to do is get you unfocused on that. Because what I really need to tell you is what you should be eating. And so here's the list. Emphasize fresh, whole, raw, organic, local, mostly plant-based. Emphasize those foods. Best way, simplest way, you get the oil that's made with health in mind in the right ratio. You take about a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day. So it'll be anywhere between 2 to 4 tablespoons for most people. And you eat greens, organic greens, till they're coming out of your ears. Okay. Now I've got you focused on something that you should do instead of telling you again what you shouldn't do, but putting that in your head. Right?
Yeah. It's a good way to look at it. Be a little proactive in what you eat.
Yeah. Don't tell me what not to do. Tell me what to do. Right? If you tell the kid, don't do that, and don't do that,
Right.
and don't do that, and don't do that, you drive the kid crazy.
Yeah.
But if you say to him, you can do that. You can work with your sticks. You can build puzzles. Then you've put him in a place where he's okay and he's safe and it's not stressed. But if you say don't, you just create more stress.
And
out of that stress, they eat all this stuff that creates stress.
Right, exactly. And I know a lot of people listening are thinking right now that, wow, it sounds like a lot of work and I got to go look for this. No one in this country right now, I don't care where you're listening from, and I know people listen in other countries as well, almost everywhere we live, through the fact that through technology and through the fact of, as you mentioned before, refrigeration and things like that, almost anywhere you can find these things. You can find healthy, organic, fresh things. I happen to live in Florida.
Yeah,
you can grow your own stuff in your backyard. I mean, and I've done it myself. I had an organic garden at one point.
Yeah,
and I shared it with my neighbors. So you can do it.
Yeah, and by the way, since you went there, anybody who lives in a house can tear up their front and back lawn and grow organic vegetables.
You bet.
And when you grow organic vegetables, you go and water them every day, and you pull the weeds every once in a while, and you get the kids involved, and the pace of nature has a very nice, comfortable, unstressed pace, and you literally get unstressed and it's very stress reducing to be around a lot of food. If you got food in the back and you got food in the front, there's something very calming about that.
I found it
teaches the kids patience. Yeah. And I mean, nature's pace is a pretty good pace.
And I found it very relaxing.
Yeah.
When I planted a seed.
Yeah.
And it was very rewarding when I went from seed to my plate at dinner.
Yeah. And your kids, when they pull their first carrot or radish, and they look at this, they get so excited, and you get happy because your kid's happy, and your kid is doing something useful, not doing who knows what with the neighbor's kids in the backyard of who knows where, right? So
they're all on their phone.
It's just and it's a pretty simple thing to do. And some of your vegetables are growing, some of them won't.
Right.
But you're there.
Right. Grow what you can. Grow what you can if you want.
So
I grew up in a big city. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
Not a lot of big backyards.
Yeah.
I had a lot of neighbors that grew their own tomatoes right out of a can.
Yeah. Right out of the can.
Right out of a can. I mean, a coffee can. So you can do it. It's really rewarding. I have friends who, when I was having my organic garden would get seeds from me,
Yeah.
and they lived in a condo, and they grew a couple of tomato plants on their balcony.
Or you could, or if you're in an apartment, then you grow some herbs on your windowsill.
Yes, yeah.
Like chives and oregano and thyme and stuff like that. You know, you could grow it on a windowsill garden.
All right, I have a question for you, because I'm old. I've come to the conclusion.
You're old.
I'm old.
I just turned 80.
Did you really?
Yeah, you should all
realize
of a sudden
this
be
is
really
on
calm
YouTube
because you're just a spring chicken.
You realize this is on YouTube, and everybody's looking at you and saying he's 80, and I'm younger than 80, and they're thinking, "Oh my God, he looks so much better than." Yeah, I know. I was told been told I have the perfect face for radio.
And I'm not complaining about being old.
No, but you'll understand my question. Our diets, do they need to change as we get older? I know our metabolism changes, obviously, but do our diets need to change to keep us healthier, or is it the same thing as our whole lives we just need to do?
No, and the answer to that question is better not as a theory from an expert, but as an answer from how your body feels. And I have to tell you that I didn't study the change in diet and what I should be eating when I'm 60 and 50 and 40 and 30 and 70 and 80. I just go by feel. And I found that as I've gotten older, I've gotten more into the plant world. And when I was younger, I could get away with just about anything because I was racing around doing what young people do. And so I could pretty much get away with anything. I'm more sensitive now. I'm more plant-based now, and I'm more raw food now than I used to be. And I do something else. Digestion is another place where a lot of stress comes from when it's not working properly. So we work with digestive enzymes, because when you cook foods, you destroy the enzymes that are in raw food that do 60% of the digestion of the food for you. That takes a load off your digestive system. And that means your immune system doesn't have to get involved in digestion. And that means it's free to do its other jobs. But when we cook the foods, we destroy the enzymes. Now the body has more than twice as much work to do. That catches up with you because you weren't made for doing that. Then the immune system gets involved. Then you become less able to fight infections and fight cancer cells and detox and digest dead cells and whatever it is that the immune system does, heal, right? So very important that if you cook your foods, you take the enzymes that you destroyed when the foods were cooked, you replace those. And so we work with enzymes to do that. And the same thing, if you were running around naked in the woods in Florida and eating raw, fresh, whole, raw, organic, off the vine, there would be friendly bacteria or probiotics on those foods. But when you cook those foods, you kill those. And then you end up not getting those in your digestive tract. And their job is to prevent unfriendly bacteria to creating stress for you in your digestive system. So if you eat foods that are cooked or processed, then you need to replace the enzymes that were destroyed in the processing and the cooking.
You hit home with talking about your digestive system. I got to tell you something. The only thing that's ever put me in the hospital overnight was a digestive problem. And I have friends who are nurses and certainly who are doctors, and I talked to them about it. And they said that 85% of emergency room visits at some point have to do with gastro problems and digestive problems. Now, you might be listening to this and saying, okay, this is a show about stress. Why are you talking about it? Let me explain something. If you're living your life worried all the time about your gut, your digestion, your stomach, or the possibility of going to a hospital, it is so stressful. I found that when I changed my diet, and that no longer was a problem for me, my life was a lot better. So that's one of the reasons, guys, if you're listening, that's one of the reasons we're talking to Udo about diet and about what you eat, because it does change your life. It does reduce your stress levels.
See, the truth is that more stress in your body happens in your digestive system than anywhere else.
Did for me.
Why is that? Because you're taking all this foreign stuff and you're throwing it in this tube.
Right.
And that tube is outside your body. Like the inside of your digestive tract is actually outside your body. It's just a hole through the middle. You throw all the stuff in, and then your body puts in enzymes and puts in digestive juices and puts in bicarbonate and puts in whatever it needs to put in to break it all down so that it's broken down to all the basic building blocks. You then absorb those and put them back together in the way that you need them for your body. If you don't break them down completely, then the foods you eat will create stress in your body. They'll mess up your immune system. They'll mess up your digestion. You know, whether you talk about gas or bloating or diarrhea or throwing up or stomach aches or bloating. I mean, there's so much going on that to make that system work effectively with digestive enzymes, probiotics, fiber is the next one, in that when those are in place, that takes care of most of your digestive issues. And when you take care of your digestive issues, you're not getting your vagus nerve, which goes to your brain from your gut. Right. Don't get your vagus nerve saying, boy, there's something wrong down here, you know, and then and that gets in your brain, and then you say, oh my God, you know, so that you got physical stress from poor digestion that ends up in mental stress about, oh my God, I don't know what's wrong with me. Gee, I wonder why, you know, can I eat that? And then you're like, what do I have to pay attention to here? And you know, and then also when your digestion doesn't work, that eventually affects your bones, your skin, your muscles, your toenails, your fingernails, your eyelashes, right? It affects everything. And some people even say death begins in the digestive tract.
I can believe that.
If that doesn't work, not much is going to work for long, because everything in your body you need to have a healthy body comes through your digestive tract.
What about the fact that people who are way overweight, obese, and the reason I'm bringing this up, because it just happened. We just went through this pandemic and we learned a lot of different things, not by choice, but one of the things we learned is that the morbidity rate of people who contracted COVID and were obese was much higher.
Yep.
In fact, there was a direct correlation. I mean, it was not a little. It wasn't 1 or 2%. It was a lot.
Yep. And many of the comorbidities began with poor digestion.
Yep.
No, we don't usually say it that way. If you got arthritis, you don't say, oh yeah, well, arthritis started in your digestive system. No, we think arthritis is in your joints. Yeah, but where did that come from? And what is it that's not working? And because so much change needs to happen in the digestive system to get your nutrients properly, to not get toxic from poor digestion, so much happens in the digestive system that, in fact, when I was 38, I had arthritis in my knees. If I, it wasn't really serious, but if I bent my knees, then I had pain in my joints. And now I'm 80. This is 38 before I got poisoned. Now I'm 80. I have no pain in any of my joints. Why not? I changed my diet.
I'm jealous.
I threw out my frying pan. I don't eat any fried foods. I eat most foods raw. I eat mostly plant-based. I have a lot of energy. You may have noticed, right? And I have no pain nowhere, except when I bang into something. You know, I do that too, right? Bang into something. Oh, you know.
Yeah, that's a completely different story.
Yeah. So I think it's impossible to overestimate the importance of making sure that everything in your digestive system works properly, and we do it mainly with digestive enzymes, probiotics, and fiber. Fiber comes from plants. Animal products don't have fiber in them.
How do we add additional enzymes?
What's that?
How do we add additional enzymes?
Well, there's two ways to do it. One way is they come in capsules. So you open the capsule, you dump them in your food as long as it's cool enough to eat. Right? If you put it in boiling water, you destroy the enzymes.
Right.
So you don't want to do that. Or you eat some, take one, eat some, take one. Or sometimes what I do when I get a sore throat or cold stuff, you start feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
I open a capsule, dump it in my mouth, and just swish it around in my mouth, because the enzymes, the protein digesting enzymes, digest the protein coats off viruses and put the viruses out of commission, and thereby take a load off my immune system. It works exceptionally well.
I tell you what, I would trust doing that quicker than getting a vaccine.
Well, that's a whole other story.
I know. I just had to put it out there because I don't know how not to say that.
So,
Udo, I want to thank you. We're running out of little time, and I wanted Leslie to talk about you have your own line, Udo's Choice line.
Yeah.
And tell me about that, where people can find it.
Okay, so you gave a website address at the beginning that needs to change. udoschoice.com, UDOS choice.com. So that's where you go for the website. We talk about the oils, why we made them, the way we make them, and why that's important, and enzymes and probiotics. We talk about all of that stuff on that website.
And can people get some of the products at Udo's Choice?
udoschoice.com. You can also get products at udoschoice.com. And you can get them in the health food stores, and some of the practitioners use them as well. Udo's Choice, and so oils, enzymes, and probiotics, and and we talk about a few other things too.
Well, you know what, guys, all you listening out there, go to udoschoice.com, find out more than you can find out in one single conversation that I'm having with Dr. Erasmus. Believe me, this conversation could go on, and we might have a part 2 to it also, because it needs further discussion. I think when we talk about stress, we tend to leave out how important diet is. We've talked about it before in this show, and we'll talk about it again, but I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again, you are what you eat. And if you're, I'm guilty of it too. We tend to reach for the stuff that's not that healthy for us. So go to udoschoice.com, find out how easy it is to start to make yourself feel better.
It's actually not that difficult.
No, I mean, I'll tell you one quick thing before we go. When I did cut out the sugar, you talked about having arthritis. I was born with it. I was born with it in my legs. That's what the doctors told me. And I was an athlete, so I have it my whole life.
He's lying to you. When the fertilized egg, when you were the fertilized egg, did you have arthritis then?
Must have.
No, no, not possible.
I know, but it felt that way.
But you have to. But the question you have to ask is, where does it start?
Well, I'll tell you how it ended. It ended when I cut out 85% of the sugar in my diet.
Yeah.
And I cut out the inflammation. And the biggest contributor to stress is pain. So that pain went away. The stress of my life went down. I felt so much better. And it's just a simple thing, guys.
For sure. Yeah. Because pain is your body telling you there's something you need to pay attention to. And then you don't know what you need to do. That's stressful.
It sure is.
If you have no pain, you don't have to think about it.
Udo, thank you so much for taking the time, coming on the show, teaching me a lot more about what it is that we need to be doing in our diet, what supplements we need to be taking. And again, go to udoschoice.com and find out some more about what Udo Erasmus, one of the leading experts in the world on this stuff, guys. Go there, find out what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be eating. It's an easy way to alleviate some of the stress in your life, make yourself feel good. And, we're always looking to find a way to feel healthier and to find that contentment. So, Udo, thank you very much for joining us today.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. This has been your host, Will Heckman. I want to thank you all once again for joining us. Don't forget, Please follow this podcast, send in those reviews, leave a comment, hit the subscribe button. Makes my day when you do that. I see a little thing go off. I'm so happy. And I want to remind you, just as stress is different for everyone, there's no one stress reduction or management strategy that is right for everyone. So that means you need to join us next time as we discuss more information, and you can get some tools and techniques and live a happier and healthier and a longer life. Don't forget to go to stress.org. And I hope the information that you heard from Udo and myself today will help you find contentment. So good day, everybody.